Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, or at least one of your hosts. And here we are enjoying our monthly Meet the Cast month. And as you might have noticed on our Delusions of Grandeur channel, we went on about movie previously called The Video Violence. Well, that comes directly from the choice mind of our dear friend Mo here, who will turn out the lights on us for this movie. So why don't you let us know what movie we have in store for tonight?
Well, we are going to be talking about the 1993 independently shot, local homegrown horror film, Leif Jonker's Darkness. This was distributed, I think, by Barrel Entertainment, and what's it, 13 something or other. And it's a movie that has a long history that I'm sure we'll dive into at various points in this tonight. But essentially, it's a low budget vampire / zombie film, if we're being honest.
I was thinking more ghouls than anything.
Well, there you go. Yeah, and that's kind of like a good middle ground between the two. But it's definitely got, equal parts like Evil Dead, Dawn of the Dead, sort of classic vampire influence, I guess. And it's just a fun, low budget film, This is a movie that a lot of people probably didn't know about until it was put out, and I think it was 2004 or something. When did the vampire version come out?
The vampire version, let's see. I believe this one says 2005.
There you go. That's right around when I bought it too, maybe 2006, 2007. And that's how I became aware of the film. It was a random Hastings buy. I flipped it over and there was mutilated chest cavities and shit on the back. So I bought it. And it quickly became a favorite low budget horror film for me. Essentially what you got going on here is like a movie made with a bunch of teenagers running around in their hometown, just fucking splattering people all over the place and having a good time.
And you can tell with the amount of cast that is in there, you can tell that they made it with just their local group of friends too. So,
well, I guess we might as well touch on this since we did with Video Violence. The origin of this basically was Leif Jonker, who was like at least my age or a fair amount older. I think he was like in his mid 30s. And he used to just hang around this local video store. And the kid, the main dude in the yellow T-shirt at the beginning is the guy who did all the special effects for the movie. And he would just bug the shit out of him all the time about making this vampire movie with him. And he eventually agreed. And this is what we got,
Well, and apparently, to obtain money for the film, the production crew sold their blood.
They did, yeah.
I do like that. I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, they went all out for this, and I think it's reflective in the final product in that it's like a true work of passion, and that's what kind of makes it special. We'll dive into all that, but what were your guys' first impressions of Darkness?
Well, my first impression of this film, I've had this film. Well, I had the first version of this film for like quite a few years, and then somebody offered me a copy of the vampire version. I was like, "Really? There's a vampire version?" Okay, so I decided to buy it. At the time, it was. I think I paid $35 for it, so that was actually relatively cheap. Seeing that it goes for $100 or more.
Yeah, regularly 70 to 80 range.
So watched it the first time today, and I actually enjoyed it. I mean, I thought it was relatively tame for the gore. For me, for my purposes, I've seen much worse, and the acting in here was actually pretty good.
Considering principal cast is between the age of 14 and 18, outside of Gary Miller, the dude in the yellow shirt at the beginning, that's 19. That's amazing.
Not one of them seemed like they were uninterested or just were paid to be there. They actually seemed like they were getting into their characters and shit like that. One interesting point is I wish that the zombies in The Walking Dead would have had that same daylight thing going on with them, you know. But
I thought that was a cool touch. Well, we'll definitely elaborate on them as this goes on, but yeah, I thought that was like a cool thing. You know, a lot of them are basically zombies.
It was a cool, fun, run-of-the-mill splatter film, and that's pretty much what it is, you know. So,
but there is there's surprising depth to it if you look into the background of the movie.
There is some lore to it.
If you really think about some of the stuff in it, it's pretty cool.
There is some lore to it. So I like that it has that kind of like knee-deep depth of story of the vampire legend, you know. So
right. Oh, well, and don't get me wrong. I won't be offended if any of you hated it. It's just I'm a realistic adult. So on that note, Jake, what was your fucking first impression of this film?
Okay, well, this was definitely a first-time watch for me, and I won't go so far as to say I hated it. But it was definitely in the bottom 5 of the films I've reviewed for this channel.
Well, I'm honestly flabbergasted that you even did either of these, Jake. I thought you would have just tapped out completely and just said, nope, I'm no part of that. So thank you for showing up, man. Regardless.
No, no problem. I give it a go. I will admit I enjoy a good vampire story, and I was kind of hoping this would be one.
Well, well, no, go ahead. I'll make my case later. I apologize, sir.
It is a vampire story. I think it's kind of weak. As I said before, I feel like they're more ghouls than vampires. And there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of story there. What saved it for me actually was knowing that it was an ultra low budget film. Finding out that the cast sold their blood to make the movie just made me, I thought that was awesome.
Oh, dude, we're going to touch on some stuff tonight that I think will make you quite pleased.
And another thing, the dude that plays Toby, and Brandon, you might know who I'm talking about. We had a contemporary at RC that was an actor who, Toby reminded me a lot of this dude. I don't know. You might know who I'm talking about. I don't want to name names on air, though. But there was a guy that I knew as an actor, as a fellow student, and later as a coworker that Toby reminded me a lot of him. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, that's pretty awesome. And Toby was not a bad character overall. Some of the characterization was thin overall, but I think the way they portrayed the characters, the way that you're right, they felt like they were really enjoying it. They were really into it. And so that aspect appealed to me. The idea of a low budget indie film, it did kind of give me that sort of gamers press start sort of vibe, just applied to a kind of movie I wouldn't otherwise have any interest in seeing. So, it wasn't a total loss.
Well, it's not exactly Nikos the Vampire.
And it wasn't as outright bad as I'm going to make sure that you emphasize that there is a "the" in front of this, because there is the Korean film called Thirst, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also an American film called The Thirst. and it kind of sucked. In manner of speaking.
Well, sucking is appropriate.
Even Vampires Suck, I found a fair bit of amusement value. Thirst just kind of sucked. So this one actually did not bore me as much as that one did, which is good.
Well, you know, a lot of this, again, I think would have been enhanced for you guys had you had the full DVD set in front of you, because you could also watch the documentary and shit.
From the way you describe it, it sounds like if I ever were to happen across this set for like $5 or $10, I would snap it up in a heartbeat. But I don't think I could see myself paying more. But it does sound like an awesome set.
Oh yeah, and if you get a chance to watch the documentary, it's like it's a heartwarming thing for sure. This movie was basically just, again, this dude that was like our age was going around this video store where that Gary Miller guy worked, the main kid in the movie, the yellow shirt dude at the beginning, and was pestering him because he knew that he did like special effects and shit, and he was like, let's make this vampire movie, man. You know, like he'd always come in there with this hat with like this shitty little logo stitched on it that eventually became like the logo for the movie for a long time. And they just did it. They got together a bunch of kids. I mean, no joke, principal cast is between the age of 14 and like 17 for the most part. I think the only dudes over the age of 18 were like the main vampire guy and Gary himself, who did all the special effects for the movie and also starred as Toby. You know.
Well, and I thought that it was pretty cool that Brandon was just talking about the Night Flyer yesterday on his blog.
Yes.
And the two main guys who are behind the makeup artistry of that film are actually backing this film. So that, to me, I had to share that real quick.
Well, yeah, dude. And so and Leif himself, Leif Jonker, was the location manager for Mars Attacks. So they all continued on in like the film industry.
I don't know. I looked at his credits, and that's like one of the only high-profile things after his stab at
directing. The only thing he really did. He started some fun like projects that would have became a thing if people backed him, but no one did at the time. So there's that whole like Phoenix from the Ashes story with Darkness, which we'll get into later. But because of the way it was released,
Right.
But I guess Brandon, that's where we're at. What's your thoughts on this initially?
Well, it was a point of interest for me, especially when I saw it. I wanted to pick my words carefully. And the movie itself did show me a lot of potential in what was behind it. Because again, we were talking about the concept alone of the whole video store and how these are really those films of the 70s, those slasher films of the 70s that got out of the theaters because the theaters became too expensive to reach anymore. So then they moved to the video stores.
Right.
I really do think that was the concept. So looking at it from a cultural perspective, I really am glad I got to see it from that perspective. And as a first-time watch, I might get this if it was at a store just because I like to have that for that and the special features. But I probably wouldn't watch the film more than maybe one more time.
Well, dude, you got to really think of Darkness as like a heavy metal demo tape. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, yeah. Well, we get to that.
Actually, that's what the music sounded like.
I was going to say, when we get to the soundtrack, that was like one of my highest points.
All local shit.
Oh, yeah.
All local, homegrown shit, bro. Like,
I like that.
And that's... See, okay, I didn't choose these movies necessarily to like impress you guys. It was more of like it was more of an exercise in like, let's talk about movies that show the potential of what other people can do if they really want to make a movie of their own.
Right.
You know. And that's the stuff that like inspires me. Even though I'm like too drunk and lazy to get out there and actually do it, like it is fun to think about, you know. And so those are the movies I like to push to people because maybe I'm that way, but maybe one of these people listening isn't. You know, they're gonna see something like a Video Violence or a Darkness the Vampire version and be like, "Fuck yes." I could get out there and do that myself, but better, and that's exactly what you should take away from this. I mean,
I could make a movie for less than it cost me to buy this one.
Exactly. Well, I don't know about that. A lot of this stuff probably racked up quite the bill at the time, and we'll get into that. But definitely, like, this is the type of shit you should aspire to. If you can do this or better, then go for it. You know, the movie itself, the plot is almost non-existent. I mean, we can do it right now. A vampire, or a dude runs into a store. He's all afraid, and he says there's someone coming. Nobody knows what the fuck he's talking about. He takes a lady's gun, shoots himself, guy rips a girl's throat out, and then all of a sudden there's, like, vampires, I guess, or, like, vampire zombie guys. Right. And then, you know, the kids run around for a bit. There's these kids that went to a concert, and there's this kid that, you know, like, experienced the first attack. He becomes a vampire hunter and starts taking holy water around in 2-liter bottles. And then he runs across these kids that came back from this concert, and their town's overrun by vampires, and takes them to pick up their friends. That's the movie.
Pretty much.
Actually, I really like the opening of it, believe it or not. I wasn't.
Yeah, he's coming. We're all gonna die. I love that fucking shit.
I love that beginning too, but I also liked the fact, like when the survivor of that beginning piece shows up, and he's like all badass now. You know, he's suddenly got that worn and weary last gunslinger feel about him, you know, and he's like, "I'm sorry about your friend, but you did the best thing," you know. So
he's Tom Store Ash. I mean, you know.
And they do a good job of building like that fucking vibe, though, I think, for as low budget as it is at that point. Like, holy shit. This guy's out there vampire hunting.
Yeah.
Reminded me of the Frog Brothers.
Vampire hunter. What's that?
Reminded me of the Frog Brothers and Lost Boys.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit of that vibe. Right. That movie was from that time period too, so I could see the influence.
Oh, it's there for sure.
Talking about things being of their time period or whatever. And from what you guys say about the DVD release, this might have still been a fairly prescient. I don't know how much of the opening sequence, all those trailers and movie, you know, the cheesy 70s opener or whatever, how much of that was part of the original film and how
none of it. Here's the deal with it.
Added to the DVD?
Yeah, this was just a local, I think it's Kansas City, isn't it?
Right.
Dave? It's just a local Kansas City film that was rad, you know, and then started getting like tape traded around, you know, and for a long time, those were the only versions of The Darkness.
Yeah, the film.
The reason I was mentioning this is that it reminds me very, 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 very much of the opening to the Tarantino Rodriguez Grindhouse double.
Yeah, that's why it's the same thing, basically.
Yeah, and this actually apparently got its DVD release 2 years before Grindhouse came out. So at first,
dude. So the thing is, okay, well, I think I can explain it best here. If you were to present one of these old movies like this, and you're a fan of Grindhouse films, you might throw that as an opener because it's what they opened with. It's a given, you know. So nobody stole it from anyone, or it's not like it's an interesting thing, you know. But I've
my
done that with
initial-
my own videos, actually, with reviews
Right.
on my channel. I've had that.
I was going to say it as a positive because my initial reaction was, "Oh man, they stole that from Grindhouse." But if it came out before then I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that was actually a nice touch." Then they were,
Right.
Well,
if anything, maybe Tarantino stole from them. I don't know.
It's just that I'm defending both of them, and that it's kind of
Yeah.
like a thing. If you're one of those
Right.
kids that's like into that filth, you're gonna
And
fucking probably do that. You know.
I could be wrong about this, but based on everything I know about the respective directors, I'm pretty sure this is a favorite of both Tarantino and Rodriguez. I'm pretty sure because they're both into those old splatter films, and Rodriguez is almost militant about low budget filmmaking. So who knows?
That militant will come in here real soon. I don't know. I mean,
I kind of like to see if this ever gets the tinfoil treatment. We need to make sure Rodriguez does the commentary track.
dude, it deserves it. It deserves that tinfoil release because, okay, check it. Like, none of this shit, they had permits for nothing. So none of those parts in the streets or on the overpasses were technically, I don't think, regulated by any police. They just did it in the time when it was, like, quiet.
Right.
All of the shotgun fucking blanks that they had were basically homemade, if I remember right.
Wow.
So there's parts where you can see it coming out the back of Gary's fucking shot all the way out the breech, if you remember. There's like parts where it looks like a firework that failed, you know, and that's exactly what it is, you know. All of the head explosions are done with real 12 gauge shotgun shells. You know, and all of this with a bunch of kids that are between the age of mostly like 17 and 14. I think Randall Ivics or whatever, the guy that played the main vampire, and Gary Miller, the yellow shirt dude that did all the effects and also starred, are the only two dudes that are like really above 18. You know, there's obviously people like in the crowds of zombies and like the gas station owner at the beginning that are like adults, you know, but they were local people that were down. Like in terms of principal cast and crew, that was it.
I did think that the girl who played the police officer seemed pretty darn young.
Yeah,
I will
probably a first year cadet.
I will have to say, when the vampires or ghouls or whatever the fuck they are decide to start to speak, they started to sound like the Borg from the Star Trek Next Generation universe. I am Locutus of Borg,
dude, and that's something that they added in this version. Like, honestly, I like their voices better in the unaltered one. That's something we could review actually for, like, you know, together or something at some point, because it is worth watching both of them if you have the DVD set, because a lot of the audio and the score is different. You know.
So the score is updated.
Yeah, they updated it to this local Kansas City band. Apostasy does like all the music. In some ways it's better, in some ways it's worse, obviously, because it's their first cut of the movie. But it's the thing that makes us special. It's not so much the fact that this movie is full of splatter and awesome gore. It's that it was made back in the day with like that small town mentality of like, let's just all get together and make a movie. I'm sure some of you guys at least noticed all the heavy metal shirts in the crowds of vampires, and that's basically what they did, dude. They just went, you know, like they were also heavy metal dudes, so they were just like, you guys want to all be in a movie? Sure, you know, and they came in there and they just made a fucking... You cannot deny that this movie is absolute low budget splatter glory, especially for the time, you know. And the fact that they were able to get all those people back together, like all those years later in 2002 or 2004 or whatever the fuck, that makes that pretty special too. If you guys ever get a chance, I'll try to upload the documentary so you can see it, just to see all those people talk about it. And
I just did in the messenger.
Nice, dude.
The timing of this one also, you have to wonder. When we did our discussion on Clerks, we talked about how Clerks was almost a direct response to Richard Linklater's Slacker. There were a lot of films in that era that were like, oh, he can do it, we can do it too. And of course, Clerks did it with a bigger budget and took off a lot more than this one did. But I could see this probably being part of that same little group of films that were like, oh, so you can make a movie on your terms with a micro budget. Well, let's see what we can do.
It's
exactly.
I think one of the things that is likable about this movie is the enthusiasm behind and the enthusiasm to make his own gore film. Just us.
Because he bugged Gary Miller for a while at the video store, if I remember. It wasn't like an overnight thing. He was like, he kept coming in there. It's like, who's this old dude with a beard who's like asking me to do vampire shit with him? Like, yeah. He was sketched out about him at first, I think, and then they just finally did it and got all those kids together. I mean, that's the point. What Jake basically says: if you can do it, I can do it too. And that's what I wanted to spread with this, because I feel like we talk about a lot of stuff that's like high budget beyond any of our listeners' ability to ever do anything like that. But you could make video violence today. You could make darkness today. You just have to have that same drive as these kids did to get out there and splatter your friends all over the concrete.
And again, I knew some people back in the day. I knew some people. I actually had written a play.
Yeah.
And I went around and I asked the people. I cast the play and I asked them, "Would y'all be willing to do this?" And I got everyone on board, but I couldn't get a stage because I wasn't in with the right people at the school and didn't know where else to go. But I briefly I had a cast together. It would have been awesome. Oh well.
See, if you weren't making a play and instead of we're making a splatter movie, you could have just shot that anywhere.
No, this was going to be a creeping. I still plan to publish the short story one day, but that's.
Do it. Don't wait on it, man. It's probably awesome.
I hope so.
You think it's not, but other people will think it is.
Well,
yeah, you know what they say. You're your own.
Probably make a book on Creative Space like right now, and just see where you can take it.
So I would ask all of you guys, throw out a couple of strong points, I think, because this isn't a movie that we really need to break down scene for scene. I mean, essentially it happens leading up to this, fucking dawn meltdown after a period of I think a day and a half.
Well, they have an interesting conceit where they keep mentioning where it is relative to sunrise or sunset. Which was kind of a nice way of structuring the film. I thought
it was cool.
There is a lead vampire among them called Livin or Livin, who evidently is played by Randall Avex or whatever. And he's this long-haired dude that just seems to be leading the mongoloid looking creatures. And
they were just humans, dude. I guess
they were. I mean,
we are kind of mongoloid-looking creatures, though. Most of us.
The Homo sapien looking creatures. We see that he is kind of a leader among them. He's the one that's turning everyone. And I like this little part where the main vampire hunting dude, the one that turns all badass, He at first goes and tries to go back and grab his mother and sister. What in this vampire apocalypse thing? In the state that they're looking in, do you really think you should be able to take them to the hospital to get cured? Hell no. But he takes them in this.
He didn't know any better.
Yeah, he's gonna try, you know.
Yeah, he's gonna try, but then of course his sister wakes up and tries to grab his ass, and of course his car can't really work that much on that gravel. That's that gravel you ride on. And then of course his mom and sister are coming after him. That's kind of a priceless scene to me.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, there's some of those that I really like in there. I mean, if you can, I think it's one of those things. The more you watch it, the more you start to remove yourself from how amateurish it is, and you start to really be able to sink into the atmosphere that they build with it, and you're like, damn. Yeah. These kids actually did. It's like when you see a kid do a super rad skateboard trick or something that like maybe would be cooler if they were an adult, but then the more you watch it, you're like, damn, that is actually super fucking impressive that kid did that. Yeah.
It is kind of haunting later on when that girl in the movie shows up and she's like, Fred, come save me. For a moment there, because you almost believe that maybe there is some kind of humanity within her still, you know, just in that moment. Because
you mean the one that died?
It doesn't feel like she's trying to lure him into a trap. It sounds like she's trying to have him try to save her from this undeadness or whatnot, you know. And to me, that part was a little haunting.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I guess it's not as cool in this version. Honestly, I think it's cooler in the unaltered version, but where the kid with no eyes is like talking to him. That part's pretty bone chilling in the original version because that kid's voice is weird. You know, it's like actually a kid voice, so it's
which kid?
The kid that has like his eyes gouged out, where he's like, "Join us."
Like, oh, lovely.
Yeah,
Jody.
I don't know. You have any favorite scenes, Brandon? I mean, that's basically what this movie is favorite scenes and ambition.
To me, when I look at it, I actually liked the concept of changing over the vampires to something different. To being ghouls instead of really vampires, so to speak.
Right.
Because it had more of a zombie movie vibe than a vampire movie vibe, which was kind of cool. And for what they did, even though I didn't like it myself, that's more of a personal preference and not the fact that it was bad, was where the special effects used in the sunlight sequence at the end. And like I said, though I'm just not as big a fan of kind of being all over the top with the gore. I'm not as bad off as Jacob is with it, but I don't seek it out as much. I admit it was done amazingly well. There are many movies with not even part of that budget. I mean, with 50 times that budget that cannot do those types of scenes as well. I remember when we were talking to the director of Slime City, hearing about how they put that together with their scenes, just having to build like a plywood extra floor down in the bottom of the room just so they could add those extra effects to that scene. And that's the kind of thing that you see in that, just like that extra ingenuity and extra work.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you look at that's a big part of the extras. I'm sure Dave can testify is behind the scenes, like, you know, screen tests for props and different things for this. And for their budget, these guys went insane. I mean, if they could have had like the same exact setup as something like an Evil Dead 2, these guys would have blown our fucking minds back in the day, I think.
Well, I liked two different scenes myself. I liked the scene where he's just chainsawed the dude's hand, and then he goes and grabs the shotgun and blows his fucking head to smithereens.
Real shotgun shell. That's how they do. That's how they did those. They didn't have anything to do it with. So all those head explosions at the end are real shotgun shells, like coming out because they would build the props so you could stick the shotgun inside of it. You know?
Oh yeah. And then later on, when the pink girl was taken, and they ran over that dude, and then of course they ran over him again, and you could tell for some reason I couldn't tell that thing would go, like come apart like that in the road.
Oh yeah,
I don't think so.
That was kind of funny. But
I was gonna say I burst out laughing at that scene. Maybe
Yeah, that one's that's a
intentionally
chuckle
so,
one for sure. Fucking, he's wearing a Whataburger hat, which I just realized this time actually, and I've seen this movie like a billion times.
and that look that he gives is like, oh shit, you know.
I love that kid's fucking reaction though, because you can tell he doesn't quite understand what's going on at first, and he hits that guy and he gets out and he's like, "That's what you get for fucking standing in the road, asshole." Like, don't just stand in the road, you dickhead.
And then of course he's like, go in reverse. What do you mean go in reverse?
Yeah, the reverse what for? They all make fun of that in the documentary that they do. See, the documentary will make you fall even more in love with this movie because it's so special, dude. It's such a special story because they were able to do this shit and have this movie be tape traded around to the point where it was like, it's, you know, a cult classic on like that tape trading level. But then when they re-released it in 2004 or whatever, it built this whole, like they were able to do this whole theatrical premiere for it finally and stuff. And they got all the cast back together and were able to do this feature-length fucking documentary about the making of the shit and interview all the people. And it's, dude, when you have this set that me and Dave have, it is a very special piece of low budget filmmaking history for sure. You know, and it's such an inspirational thing when you look at it from that mindset. Like, it's like as if one of us went to the local video store back in the day because we knew the kid there, man in the desk, did special effects. And we just bugged that motherfucker for like months until he finally said, yes, I'll do this movie with you. And then you got him together with all your local friends and you did this thing for like a year and a half or something like that. I think it took him to finally do it.
Took a while, yeah.
And when it's all put together, it's something as coherent even as what we got with this, and still that awesomely splattery good. You can't fucking not love just at least the idea of that, right? Like they made their own Evil Dead 2 is basically what happened, you know. And that's awesome.
I can't help but think for a minute though. Richmond is hardly known as a centerpiece of the film universe. We have had several high-profile productions here in the last few years. We've had scenes filmed from in and around the area for the series Turn, for the movies like Lincoln and Loving and whatnot, and went to the casting call for all three of those to no avail. But at any rate, there is also, we've talked on this channel a couple of times, mostly in response to Dane's railing against the state of cinema, that we have a local theater in the area that is really cool. It does like second run showings and whatnot. They also host film festivals, and they're mostly very small, but there was an attempt to start an international film festival. I think it ran for about 3 years. I don't think they did it this year because of all the COVID stuff that went on.
Yeah.
But actually, it was more than 3 years because it was I was introduced to it when my old man was still around, and I'm actually very much the proud owner of a documentary that premiered at that festival that he was actually part of. They interviewed him for
That's
this
dope.
documentary, but it's
Awesome.
really hard to find. But I only got to go to a little bit of the festival. They called it the Richmond International Film Festival, but they did a bunch of short films. And one of the ones that's stuck in my mind that I am reminded of when I'm thinking of this film, I am reminded very much of the title. There was a film, it was only 5 minutes long, but it was a fun little comedic little short called How Not to Become a Vampire. And there were several good. Probably my favorite short of the whole festival is called Ghosts of Old Highways. And that was a weird, trippy film, and I loved it. But that stuff, I don't know if that will ever see the light of day on physical media. And it would be so great if some of those films did, you know? And
it would. Dude, some of that stuff won't. I don't think it ever will.
You know, and I got to talk to a couple of the filmmakers. I mean, there were several of them there for the festival, and I got to talk to a couple of them. And
it's a rad feeling, man. We have a similar thing over here called Tri-Cities International Film Festival, and I don't know if you guys remember like Space Janitors.
No.
See, I think some of these are like locally famous web series, but Space Janitors are like Journey Quest. I will give you guys links. You need to see it. And I think Brandon especially.
Journey Quest, I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
Journey Quest, I know like most of those dudes because of conventions, dude.
Cool.
Yeah.
They're the Dead Gentleman people. They're like zombie.
Those were good times for sure. Fucking hanging
gamers.
out with those guys.
Oh yeah, I've got all of Journey Quest so far. I've helped like with the Kickstarters and stuff like that with them.
Yeah, they would shop the fuck out of that at like our local convention right here. So Journey Quest, I was ground floor of that shit. I love that. Oh man.
That's the thing. That was my thoughts whenever I think of that. Anybody can make one. As some people might be familiar from watching us here on this channel, we did a little. We've done some pre-shows, and in July we hope to return to on X Strike Studios, which should definitely teach people that yes, anybody can do these things.
Right.
Yeah.
At a budget level.
Don't ever think that just because you don't have a bunch of shit that you can't do something awesome. That's basically the point of me suggesting these, because they're important to me for that reason. You know, like even though I've never done it, I know I could do it. Like we could do this, dude. You know,
for every Thanksgiving out there, there's a Thanksgiving 3. You know.
Hey, as long as you made a movie, man. I mean,
right.
Get out there and do it.
Yeah.
You know, fire those fucking shotguns off of that. Right now is probably the perfect time to fucking go out there and blow up some exploding heads.
I don't know
footage that you need for your shit, you know. I'm not going to encourage that inside city limits, but you know, take it to a safe place. I doubt they'll have time for that.
Anyone else? Favorite moments?
I think honestly, dude, most of my favorite moments are the little things anymore, because I've seen this movie so many times. So there's like my favorite moment in the whole movie is Toby comes out of this fucking thing and he does all this work to get his bandolier of shotgun shells up on his shoulder, and then it falls down and he catches it, and you can see him look at it for a minute like, that's fucking annoying, you know. And because it's like he did it and then they just keep rolling the take, so he actually does hit his lines after that too. Not that he delivers them like with any Oscar winning fucking skill, but he gets him, and it's just I love that moment. I love those moments in low budget movies where they're just in there where it's like, oh, God damn this thing.
And they know they fuck up, but they continue on.
In terms of overall, dude, that fucking finale sequence is one of my favorite things ever. I know it's not for everyone, and it's gratuitous, and it's. I'm gonna let you guys have your run at that before I say anything. But
I was entertained by the meltdown of the bodies because I've seen splatter and seen this for the first time. To me, this whole scene was mellow compared to some of the newer splatter that has come out of things. But that being said, I have never fully seen a skeleton, a bloody skeleton that has the skin moving along the nostrils like that.
Dude, it went from like some realistic shit to like straight up war props to just insanity.
And I've seen some pus things before, but never like that. So,
I mean, I have to say, like I said, even though I'm not a fan of it because it's just, but that's me. Like I said, that's personal things. I do have a lot of respect for the work that went into it. That's quite amazing. Because if it looks too fake, it's not going to bother me. So the fact that I was bothered by it some tells me that they did an excellent job.
They mix it well. Yeah. And then it just gets disturbing.
And then it's like fireworks at the end when all the heads explode. So it's like
there's that. I was watching it pretty in depth this time, and it might have been on account of I smoked a lot of weed, but fucking. I was looking at it and I was like, Jesus Christ, like the first sequence of it where they're building you up to where they really start getting sort of psychedelic with it, and it's just a bunch of people shaking around, and it's like it's kind of, it almost gets to a disturbing level of repetition at a certain point there, Well, and then everybody's head explodes, so they build it up nicely.
There is this moment when the sun comes out, and there's this man just like in half, and you can see his guts all over. Now, granted, you can tell that much of that is fake, but if you thought about it really a whole lot, it is disturbing to say the least. So that. The fact that they took this vampire sunrise to an extreme meltdown level like that was.
I would love to see that done like by some people on a much higher budget.
I would too.
Have we ever even gotten that in all the years of vampire movies? I don't think we have.
Of something like that on that scale?
30 Days of Night. That's the closest I've seen. Is 30 Days of Night. Because that's what it reminds me of.
Well, interesting that you say that, because on the back of this cover it says, before Blade, before vampires, before Underworld, before The Forsaken, before 30 Days of Night, there was darkness.
This came out the year before. The one that really sticks in my mind when you talk about vampire movies where the sunrise really leaves an impression. The one that sticks in my mind is Interview with the Vampire, the part where the two vampires are cooked in that, and that was the year after this. So I guess
this was done relatively well for time period. So
I mean, that was one of the most. I thought that was one of the most affecting moments in that movie. I
don't think we would have wanted little what's her ass getting splattered all over our face, though. It's tastefully done.
And then the other one that comes to mind, one of my favorite vampire films is Shadow of the Vampire, and there was that trick that the director pulled on him at the end of the film that involved the sunrise. That was pretty fun.
I think
You saw that
Martin will always remain. I think. Well, okay, I may have put this one as my favorite vampire film on my top 5, but in reality, it's a fucking splatter film, and I was probably drunk. Martin is probably, or if I had to give you a top 3 vampire movies right now, it would probably be Martin, The Transfiguration, which is basically an ode to Martin, and Let Me In, which is the remake.
So
Let Me In is awesome.
Let Me In is the only one of those I've seen.
What was the
and the original was even better.
Yeah,
what was the
I've heard
vampire? What's the vampire road trip movie? I can't think of it. I don't know why I
Vampire
call
Road
it.
Trip.
I cannot think, but that's what I think of it as. They're all traveling around in the van, and the guy is
Near Dark.
Near Dark. That's
Yeah,
another one
Yep.
that has vibes here.
It's got Bill Paxton. He cuts that guy's throat with his spurs and shit.
Nice.
So yeah, I
Well,
mean,
and
there
that-
are some high budget versions. Like I said, if I was to look at this movie and say which current movie today would be look at this thing and say, okay, we're going to create a high budget version, I would still say 30 Days of Night is the closest I see to this.
I gotta say that one of these days, I guess it depends on what our themes are going forward. But one of these days we're gonna have to pair Shadow of the Vampire and Nosferatu. That's gonna be
Let's do it.
very fascinating.
I am all about that.
I'd love to do that. I'm down.
Actually, I guess if we vote on Silent Summer, then Nosferatu is a valid contender.
Dude, in Comic Club, a lot of the times we use those as like the odd week thing, where there's like a month where it's not just 4 weeks. We will use, like the thing, like as a little bonus.
Oh yeah, you can bet that there's going to be quite a bit of Silent Summer does win, but who knows? Because Mo will be the one to cast the ending votes. Actually,
Oh yeah,
that's amazing.
But
it feels like such an honor.
No pressure.
Did we know what any of the music was behind this film?
Oh, the music was freaking awesome.
it was good. I'll give it that.
Oh yeah,
music,
and it's
very effective, and it kind of had a little bit of that Clerks vibe to it in my mind.
Well, because it had that local metal band thing going on, and a lot of it was spaced. I get what you're saying. Like Clerks kind of had that woven in there where it was spaced at the right moments where it felt like it was normal. Yeah, it's a pasta.
Hey.
It's a local band.
Evidently, I don't know why he was thanked for this movie, but Mr. Lobo was thanked for this movie, and he played in Plan 9, the remake. He played.
Oh yeah.
He played Criswell.
If you're looking for one, and again, this is one we'll have to cover one of these days. If you're wanting to do some lower budget, kind of more in that mid grade, not quite the lowest grade, but very close. Yeah, we have to cover John Johnson's stuff in the future, just because some of that stuff is very much right there with it. It is it really is it's local. Well, it's local to us. I mean, Charlottesville, Virginia. That's that local. So yeah, so that just shows you that as Moa said, anybody could actually do this sort of thing.
Yeah, especially you look at guys like who's the dude that did the zombie bloodbath? Todd Sheets.
Todd Sheets, yep.
Like that guy got a bunch of local news support, and that in itself boosted participation in that shit.
Well, and I like Todd Sheets for the most part. I mean, House of Forbidden Secrets was his comeback film after his heart attack. So I'm glad that the guy is still going in business after he almost died himself. So
Whoops.
But in any case, I think that pretty much covers this film.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, this is not a movie that you go out there looking for to be blown away. It's supposed to be kind of just like an inspirational ride through low budget filmmaking. If you want to see a bunch of good splatter, if you want to see a bunch of kids having fun making a fucking horror film, Darkness is probably one of the best examples of that, I think, in its purest form. If you can somehow see the documentary, which I'm going to try to upload, and if it doesn't work, oh well. But I think at this point, maybe they won't copyright bump it. So hopefully we can get that up, and you guys can look at that as well on the side of watching the movie.
We did a vampire film, not that unlike Dead Alive. That would be awesome.
Well, I mean, that's a good point to kick off here. Like Brandon, for example, if you had a crew of people, an experienced effects person, and say like enough to make a low budget movie on par with Video Violence or this, what kind of film would you make?
Actually, I'd probably make a video about small-time YouTubers who collect media, not just Blu-rays and DVDs, but people with like 1,000 subscribers or under who do this stuff. The real movers and the shakers of YouTube, who are constantly being run over and pushed out as the channel becomes closer and closer linked to the giant channels.
Are you talking a documentary or a fiction film?
Oh, well, I think it's a documentary because you think about it as I do believe that YouTube's algorithm works towards trying to push a lot of these small.
All right, so check this out. This is part of the okay. So say we take that, and you're like, you want it to make it about the smaller dudes, right? So say we take it and we make it about a smaller YouTube channel, a smaller vlogger that gets obsessed with a bigger vlogger and eventually kidnaps him and then vlogs his torture and murder. Yeah. See, that's how you spitball an idea into an idea. A movie for nothing. We could do that for like $50 or something. We could cut Dave's leg off in an apartment and make it look like this horrific scene with just a little bit of corn syrup and a video camera.
Right.
And that's the thing that I'm trying to push with this shit. Get out there and make something.
One idea I've always had since my college days, and I'm really thinking that I would like this year. I'm going to see if I can make it happen. I don't know if I will, but I'll see if I will. When Black Friday comes around, I'm going to see if I can get a badass camera. And if I can get a badass camera, this might be one step closer toward fruition. But I always thought it would be really cool to just get a group of people together, friends mostly, but people who have an ability to act natural on camera. Maybe not Oscar level acting, but act natural on camera, which is a gift. And I just thought it would be fun to go for a hike on the Appalachian Trail and see what happens. Sort of a mockumentary, if you will. And sort of lightly scripted, but everyone riffing off the basic script. I don't really know what the script would be that would be the most interesting, but I think that would be a really fun basic idea. And considering that I know you're thinking horror. Well, I do have the experience of having walked back from McAfee's Knob at dusk the year that the Blair Witch Project came out, and half the people on the hike were scared shitless because they had just seen the Blair Witch Project. So that might be something fun. But as far as the one I had to play about, It's basically a ghost story. It's called Jolene, and it's actually inspired by the Dolly Parton song.
I
And the
love that
idea,
song. It's one of my favorites in the world.
it's a kick-ass song. And the idea is basically you have this young married couple where the woman suspects that something is not right in paradise, and she starts seeing Jolene. And it could be a ghost story. It could be she's actually seeing the previous lover. It could be it's all in her head. And that was my idea, was it was playing with your mind of, is this real or is it not? And I don't know if that would be as easy to do on a low budget, but I would love to try.
It sounds like it'd be even easier to do if you had the right people to do it
Right.
with.
Oh,
And
man.
like I said, that was the one I had written as a play, and then I rewrote it as a
That
short
sounds
story.
fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Out of the short stories I've read by you, I'd say that was the best one that I had. Actually, I told you that the day I read it.
You read
Actually,
the
yeah.
original version. You
Yes,
read
I
the
did.
original. Yeah. So I have actually done at least 3 different versions of the story.
It's nothing like the book that I was trying to write.
Tell us more, Dave.
Well, I was starting to write a book of anthologies called Bone Mansion, and basically, there's this mansion that is made of bones, and it's the bones that tell basically the stories. But inside this mansion is a man who is about to autopsy, do an autopsy to a man, and while he is taking this man's pieces apart, he is telling these stories. And I'd created the first 2 stories. I just hadn't gone into the into the third tale as yet. The first story, there is a fake story that was done in the 50s or 60s about apparently and this was a fake story that was propaganded in magazines and all that jazz about these angels of heavenly hosts that suddenly appeared to the Germans and the Brits at the end of the World War I. And they were called the Angels of Mun. So I took a story that was set at the height of the storming of the Bastille, and evidently a grandfather had evidently ended up in prison right next to Marquis de Sade. That's how I intermixed the Angels of Mun in with that, and it continued with the story. The second story I called Black Annie, originally, but I forget exactly how I had it. I have it written down somewhere. I just haven't edited the 2 stories together entirely. But I had planned on writing a third story. And the third story I had where 3 hooded figures were supposedly supposed to meet in a dark, secluded stone place. And they, while this guy was telling this story, they were about to tell a story, and this one was going to be the most horrifying one to boot. So it's not necessarily the. I mean, it's definitely the third tale was definitely going to have some gore in it. So
why not? I've never written stories, but I've written some stupidly intricate Facebook post sagas where like once I had the Gorton fish sticks man fighting a bunch of shit like kaiju style, basically like giant squid and whatnot. And that was pretty satisfying.
Do we have that in a One Piece game?
Oh yeah, probably.
I don't know, but dude, that Gorton.
Originally, I was going to have Dane write 3 more stories, and then somebody else was going to write 3 more, and then
See, I think if I were to write a story, it would be something that would just ruin a bunch of people's day. Like, it's a story about a bunch of worms that live in like this colony of different bugs, and they're like, it's super diverse, and everybody's living happily, and then they fucking realize that they've been eating a corpse that's been missing for 5 years or something the entire time, you know. At the end, they migrate away, and it's like, holy shit, we were living on top of a body, you know. Everyone's just fucking torn up, you know. And I don't know what I'm trying to get across with that idea, other than ruining people's day, and maybe that like all of us are living in fucked times and the world's fucked, you know.
Well, I mean, if you were talking about if it had to be a splatter type film, I did have one idea that I'll probably never make, but it's about the saxophone. And when people actually look at the saxophone, they get entranced. It's a bunch of farmers that all they do all day is they tip cattle. But instead of cattle, they see people as cattle. And they tip the people to the point where they kill them each time, smashing them all to death.
Nice.
And just this weird, like, saxophone cow tipping country fried horror film, and it would end in a big scene with a giant riding lawnmower versus a sousaphone.
So evidently,
see, dude, when I think of stuff like that, I always just end up settling on like stupid names for movies, like Penicular Homicide.
So evidently, I just got some exciting.
Like, get it? Penis homicide. Yeah.
Got some exciting news, guys. I don't know if Brandon, if you remember, Dustin and I interviewed a guy by the name of Christopher Ambrose.
Yeah.
He said that he actually knows the guys who did this film.
That's dope.
Oh, wow.
He's going to let them know that we went on about this film.
Yeah, I mean, this
cool.
movie was a huge thing for me, and still is to this day, because it makes me definitely believe that all of us are capable of doing the same thing, you know, because we are. Get out there with your friends, you know, learn about grab a bunch of digital downloads of Cinemagic, and within a summer, you'll be exploding heads to your fucking heart's delight, you know.
As Lloyd Kaufman would say, make your own damn movie.
Exactly. Get that too. That's a good resource I've learned for making that shit, dude.
And I'll have to admit, Lloyd Kaufman is an inspiring individual.
For sure. Even if you don't like his movies.
He was such a great part of Killer Rack. He really was.
I was just talking to Brandon about Lloyd Kaufman, like a little bit ago, because I was actually starting to check out Lloyd Kaufman's first film called The Girl Who Returns.
Dude, you got to look into the janitor.
Evidently, he did it in the style of take the money and run, and what's his name? Evan Jacobs' boxing fable. So
don't ever misname my boy Shoesty again. Okay.
I will say if you all want
A-T.
Schusterman.
Exactly.
That was a fun movie.
If you want to get to a video that is inspiring on that level of make your own film, the interview we did with Evan Jacobs on I believe it was Delusions of Grandeur that happened on.
Yep.
That interview, in my opinion, is probably one of the strongest advocates for you can make your own movie, because he literally does that. As he said in the interview, you know, I just felt like doing it in the car ride over to Vegas, so I made a movie.
Yep.
And he did.
That's all it needs. You don't even need anything, honestly. You can make a movie with your friends, just without anything. You don't need special effects. You just need dialogue and some basic gimmick shit, and you can make a fun little like friend film. You know, I think more people need to be doing that stuff. It's weird that you don't see a lot more short films by just average people with social media being a thing, but I don't think they really think about that they can do that if they want to. You know,
Right.
Your average camera and your cell phone is better than most movie cameras that existed back then. Grab a tripod, grab some friends, make a goddamn movie.
Well, in a sense, we are doing it on a daily basis with YouTube.
Yep. Let's get the fuck out there. Stop being a little pussy. Make a movie and show it to us. Link it to us on this page. We're down to check it out because we like to support stuff like that.
Well, like every episode of Septum Sin versus the World starts with a music video, which is sort of a short film.
Yeah, that's true enough.
Let us know down in the comments, ladies and gentlemen, whether you have seen this film and how much you would probably try to recommend this film to anyone.
And as a fellow editor myself, I would say, show us what you got. You know, make a horror movie music video right there. Throw it in the comments.
Want to see what you got?
Yeah. We will see what you got, you know. And who knows, maybe one of you guys that edits one of those horror movie music videos can be one of the dudes that edits several of these fellas who are looking for an interest segment. So
definitely.
There you go.
So, why don't we start our outros?
Okay.
Before we do that, though, have you guys had fun?
Yeah.
Oh, it's always fun on these.
Was this what you expected out of this segment?
Sure.
I'm always game for excellent discussion and just fun overall.
Oh, yeah, and it's fun. And I've said before, like, you know, I do believe one of the only reasons I tune in from week to week, honestly, you know, it's like y'all are cool folks, and of course I've known Brandon for years, but I mean, you know, y'all are all cool folks. But the main reason I come back week after week is I like having an excuse to broaden my cinematic horizons. And actually, Dave, again, last night, I had an eBay purchase about a month ago. It included 2 of the films you had selected for this channel.
Really?
And I mentioned that Phantasm I watched a few nights ago.
Yes.
And then last night I rewatched Beyond the Mat. So that was 2 pickups that I would never have even thought to pick up if it were not for this discussion group.
See, and that's what it's all about, man.
Cool.
You know.
And I think, just like Brandon, I think that you have been a great companion to come on every week. Well, almost every week.
Even though I fear I got a little too toasted for my night.
What's that?
I enjoy talking to all of you guys, and I started this channel out of boredom, and I am not not unhappy with the way things have gone. We're still going. I mean, this is our 3rd year now, I think, and we've had a fun time. I mean, we had a lot of people come on at past. I mean, some of them have left and gone, but you know, there is still interest, and I'm glad that you guys are interested in keeping to take this journey with me. And
well, for sure, man.
I think I had more genuine interest in this one than I did Slime City. I know I had more interest in this one than I did Boy Omega. And I know there were a couple others So yeah, I've had worse.
I feel like we've kind of become brothers in film talk, you know.
Oh yeah, we're having a great time, bro.
yeah.
I love you guys.
I mean-
I look forward to this every week.
But,
Being able to push this shit on here has been so much fun. I think this discussion went off without a hitch, honestly, because it was meant to devolve into just film discussion and discussion of low budget movies, because that's the point, you know. Let's get people out there making more awesome shit for us to watch.
Yeah, one of these days we will have to make a point to do Slack, or if only so I have an excuse to watch my copy. But
I watched it and got rid of it.
yeah, which is why I need to watch it.
And this is a message that goes out to Leif, Jonker, and everyone who was in this film. If you, aforementioned, watch this discussion, thank you for making this film, and it was entertaining to watch, and I hope that maybe eventually it gets a Blu-ray out there. I really do.
That mock-up is fucking sweet, dude. But yeah, Leif, if you see this, definitely fucking do something with it.
Oh, I mean, that's
All right, everybody, you can turn the lights back on.
We'll hold up a minute. All right, man. Leif, if you fucking are hearing this, you definitely need to pursue something about getting this out on a better format, because I think we deserve it. The people that have stuck around.
Who knows? Would you welcome a sequel?
Dude, at this point, no. I think it would have been cooler back then because the people would have been together. But if he wants to do it, I'm definitely going to buy it and watch it.
Hey, you get a bunch of them as the older people, and they're all together, and they're doing it for the same budget, but they're just all older people, and then the vampires come back, you know?
Well, and they could have their kids involved in that too, so you never know.
Yeah.
Well, you posted the documentary, right?
Yeah.
Dude, you guys should definitely watch that, because I think it'll endear this movie to you a little bit more once you see that, you know, and you see all the shit that went into it. So it's definitely pretty special that they got to eventually have it premiered in a movie theater with all their friends and family and the people that made it, you know. And they didn't get that back in the day, like in the 90s when they made it. You know, it just went to the tape trading market, basically.
I love the tape trading market as a concept. It's too bad that it survived a lot through cons and so on, but the problem with surviving through cons is that during this COVID, they're literally non-existent.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like when I was a big fan of Mystery Science Theater back in the day, the only way you could get all of the episodes was through tape trading with fans. And that was
well, dude, it definitely still exists with DVDs too. You can't find everything on DVD like in the wild. Necromantic 1 and 2, like that had to happen at a convention from some sketchy dude with a bunch of tapes too. I bought a few of those, and I'm like,
now, I would prefer being able to get a hold of like a better copy or just any copy. I'd love to be able to do that just because it would be awesome to have. And just I mean, like I said before, we were talking about my selections, like the Paul McCartney film, Give My Regards to Broad Street. And Jake let me know that it was like extremely expensive. Like,
it is expensive.
Less than a month ago, it was only $5. Actually, no, a little bit over a month ago, it was only $5.
I was going to say less than a month ago. I was already
because
looking.
Because I had found a copy, and I said, "Okay, Dave, digitize this for us." So that just goes to show you right there what it is about, and that anything can go out of print. So if you see something that you genuinely want,
Get
you
it.
genuinely feel like you want, you might want to try and get a hold of it because it
Even
never.
if it's something like, one of the mission statements for Criterion is that they try to keep stuff in print, but they have a number of things that have gone out of print. And, so it's like best laid plans and all that, but, you do what you can do.
See, I'm still waiting on a replacement sleeve for my Lone Wolf and Cub because it got damaged in shipping.
Oh, that's too
And
bad.
as soon as I went to file the thing, it was like, no, we're not doing that anymore because of COVID. So it might go out of print or something while I'm waiting to get the sleeve.
Right.
And that's it's a sad thing. So it's how it is. I really do feel. I mean, channels like this one, which do put forward movies, even the bigger movies. If you think about it, sometimes people don't think about watching these films. Or
Yeah.
channels like Mo's channel, Drunken Master Studios. That channel put forth a lot of films that I had never even thought about or seen before, and I can say that I've watched a lot more stuff that I would never have seen thanks to that channel.
Oh, yeah.
That's all, dude. That's what I could do it for.
Light
I've
and
definitely.
Shadow did that as well. If you've ever seen his channel, but unfortunately he's not updated as much. But in his stuff, he did that too, which was awesome.
See, I'm not gonna lie. I've been like, dude, lately I get super discouraged to actually edit the reviews that I've recorded for the modern horror films because I think like, oh no one gives a shit. Like, why they don't want me to do that? Yeah, like I feel weird not doing old horror movies and stuff.
I love the ones that I've never heard of before because it introduces me to a whole new breed of movies that I have never watched. So,
well, right, and don't misconstrue my last comments. I mean, at the same time, you got to do shit that you just want to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, my review of Color Out of Space wasn't necessarily needed, but it's there.
It was enjoyable. It was enjoyable because, for all I know, I might have looked at that and ignored it and said, you know what, I don't feel like watching this. But then checked out your review and said, you know what, heck with that. That sounds actually much better than I thought it would be.
Dude, you should. And honestly, from what I've seen, we should probably be watching all the Nicolas Cage recent horror films because the guy's going fucking absolutely insane.
Well,
I've been a little bit afraid to watch. I've been a little bit afraid to watch because I don't know. Because again, I have my certain.
Dude, what I've seen, it's like nuts. It's
I've been told. I've read that one of the greatest films of the last 3 years was that film he did, Mandy.
Oh, dude,
the one he's talking about.
No, don't get me wrong. Okay, Mandy would separate out. No offense, like the normies of us, real quick, because Mandy is absolutely like an exhausting movie to watch in the sense that it's fucking like an insane drug trip. Even if you aren't on drugs, by the time you're halfway through that, you're going to be questioning that. It's not at all a movie that comes at you and has a plot. It's just an assault on the senses, really. Like, it does have a base plot in that, like, yeah, these fucking weird Manson family came and like burned his family, but after that, it's just like violence and psychedelic imagery.
Okay, good to know. It's like, but it's weird. Like, you hear the ones that people rave about, and everyone not only has their own sensibilities, but they have their own thing that really gets them going. And I think that's especially true with horror and with comedy, and maybe with certain other genres, but probably especially horror and comedy. It's like there are things that one person will look at as a masterpiece, and then someone else will look at it as, and that's like
Right.
some of the recent horror ones. Like when Brandon and I did our list of the best films of last year, I was beyond shocked. That I rated Midsummer higher than he did. I was beyond shocked. And
Hey,
then,
I did an independent in my top films. An independent
Yeah.
film, the Dark Days of Demetrius.
check out
Demetrius,
that video
whatever
if you're
the
watching. That's a cool video.
Yeah.
But it's like I could not believe that I rated that one of all things higher. But Midsummer really struck a chord. There were a couple scenes I couldn't
Yeah,
watch.
Midsummer was great.
Yeah, and then like you get things like well, again, the one I hosted a couple weeks ago was a comedy called Maverick. I happen to think that's one of the greatest comedies ever written.
It's
Not everyone felt that way. Whatever. Not everyone feels that way. That's the way it is with comedy. It's everyone's got their own kick.
Well, it all comes down to the basic rule that opinions are subjective, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone's got one.
That's why I think film discussion is important because
Right.
because film is subjective the way it is.
It's important to be able to disagree about something neutral and be able to have like civil discussion about it, no matter what your background is or who you are.
Well, it's like when we did what was that one? Was it Return of the Living Dead 3 that had all the body piercing?
No.
Oh yeah.
And I found that horrifying. Utterly horrifying. I thought the movie itself had potential and it had some interesting concepts.
That's one of the best in the series.
But that heavy emphasis on self-mutilation. And I know there were some people who are not here tonight who were very much opposed to my opinion.
I would say that you might be slightly disgusted with me, but that shit is hot. Yeah.
I found it, well, certain ones I'm okay with, but I found that very hard to watch. And so, but we had an interesting discussion with the differing viewpoints. So that
I'd love to check that out actually while I'm at work.
Yes, but and I do want to go ahead. I'll go ahead and throw it out there while I'm thinking about it, just randomly, because we're doing a lot of random stuff tonight. But I mentioned that that I've been watching the old TV series of Maverick, and that the character Samantha Crawford was the inspiration for Annabelle. And there was a great moment in an episode I saw the other night. Great moment where it's like Samantha seeks out Brett, and she's like, "I was thinking about you," and he just looks at her and he's like, "How much did it cost me?" I just love that response. I was like, it was good times. But that was kind of what we were talking about last night in our discussion. We were talking about mercenary characters and self-serving characters, and we had a very long discussion where mostly between Dan and I about Gone with the Wind. So y'all can check that out too.
Yeah, definitely worth looking into. It was.
But yeah,
I have a sealed copy of Gone with the Wind sitting in my house, but I ain't fucking opening that shit anytime soon.
It'll probably be on this list.
I'll do it though. I will. One day I'm gonna be like sitting there, like I'm gonna like wear a smoking jacket and smoke from an old pipe and watch this.
It is an essential piece of cinematic history. If nothing else,
Gone with the Wind, you might as well do Scarlet as well, because Scarlet was the film that was done afterwards.
I saw bits and pieces of that when I was a kid, and I don't remember it at all.
Dude, it's just one of those movies that like my grandpa showed me when I was too young to appreciate, like
Right.
Dr. Zhivago. Like,
Right.
I don't know what the fuck
yes,
that movie's even about.
God.
Yeah. Oh, it's Dr. Zhivago.
I don't know what the fuck it's even about. I was a little kid.
It's
He tried to show it to me, and I was like, "You're a bastard. I'd rather be eating fucking granola bars than just watching Jungle Book, you piece of shit."
Hey, as long as those movies are, you could get good and drunk by the end.
You can. I mean, I have them. I have like deluxe because when my grandpa passed, I got his DVD collection.
Right.
Old, so, but also Sly, because there's a lot of those where it's like he does have like 4 different editions of it, but they're 4 different editions of it.
Wow.
So like he was grabbing every new edition of Gone with the Wind.
Well, there were a lot of them.
Or like West Side Story, or
West Side
Dr. Zhivago. So I have like some pretty deluxe
So you
versions
like
of
2
those
on
movies.
VHS and 2 on DVD, and that's
Yeah, exactly.
I have
Exactly.
several copies of West Side Story.
Romeo and Juliet with Olivia Hussey is another one that I have like a bajillion different releases of it. Maybe that's where my Olivia Hussey obsession, because dude, that's my girl right there. Black Christmas, come on. Yeah.
Well, actually, I find it very amusing that she followed that. I think she followed that up. I recently watched Franco Zeffirelli's Jesus of Nazareth series, where she played Mary, and I believe that was her direct follow up to Black Christmas. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that you go from. It's great, yes, but
Olivia Hussey is a legend, and rightly so. But
you're talking about multiple copies. Like when Criterion released The Princess Bride, I had to get their version on principle.
Dude,
there was
like my grandpa's Psycho was like basic DVD. He had like 6 copies of Psycho that were all the better. You're like To Kill a Mockingbird. That's the stuff that I inherited. So it's like I have like multiple releases of those movies.
Well, Psycho and To Kill a Mockingbird are both classics. We've done Psycho. We need to do To Kill a Mockingbird.
I think so too. To Kill a Mockingbird is one of my favorite. Should I say silver screen?
But if they ever make a movie of the sequel book, fuck that movie.
Besides Inherit,
the book never should have been released. Harper Lee sat on that for like 50 years, and it was released after her death. What does that tell you? It never should have been released. That book totally messes with the original.
We love you, Jake.
What I found,
anyways.
what I found disturbing is that there was a high school that was, I think, in Whitefish Bay in Wisconsin here that was going to put on a production of To Kill the Mockingbird, but because of the racial conflict in that play and in the movie, they were told that they couldn't put it on.
Oh, jeez, really?
Yeah, that's the thing that's sad.
That is sad. People need to be able to, I mean, that's an important book, an important movie. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
It's weird to think that. Okay, I'm all for progressive thinking and being like sensitive stuff, but at the same time, certain stories should be able to be told, regardless of that, And I don't like the idea that certain like World War II stories can't be made into movies because people would be offended by it or
also
different things like that. I mean, it's I don't think that's okay. I want to see those stories told in cinematic glory, one way or the other.
Yeah, you'd have to. It was some of them. You'd have to do it properly. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to. Like I mean, Downfall was very much a Hitler-centered movie, but it was one that
I
did
feel
it.
like I saw that too.
That was a good movie. That was
Yeah.
a really good movie. But it didn't glorify him and it
No.
didn't demonize him. It showed him as a
just
sad,
that dude.
pathetic, erotic dude.
Yeah.
You know?
So you
Yeah.
didn't feel you were posted on one side of the goalpost or the other during it, you know?
Right.
It just felt like a movie.
Exactly. And a damn good one at that. And
Yeah,
it was
fun.
and it gave us some wonderful memes too. So
It
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, you should be able to do a movie about whatever thing you want. Nowadays, you try to do like a historical movie, people are going to come at it and say that it was offensive, and it's like,
well,
it's
that's not the way
historic, you idiot. You know, like,
yeah. Now, I mean, there's a proper way to do it and an improper way to do it. Disney's way of doing Pocahontas, that's an improper way of doing it. Terrence Malick's way of doing it, that was the proper way to do
you
it.
do it as a neutral observer of
That was
the
Terrence
story.
Malick's version, yes.
One thing I will go back to always is the Holocaust miniseries, because that is just an absolute fucking masterpiece of a bunch of people coming together, I think, to play these different roles and make them all sympathetic, but understandable. You know, it's you understand it from all sides when you watch that thing.
See, when I think of Holocaust films, I think of the Schindler's List or Uprising.
I was talking about the Holocaust, like that mini series with what's her ass? Not is it Meryl Streep?
Maybe.
I think she does play
she does that kind of stuff.
the daughter.
It's called The Holocaust.
I think it's just called Holocaust. It's like
That
a
sounds
19.
Sounds really familiar.
You've seen it for sure, dude. Like it's
I don't know that I have, but
it's got Michael Moriarty as like a SS dude. Like definitely you and Brandon have probably seen it, if anyone else.
I don't recall, but that doesn't mean I haven't seen it.
TV miniseries. Meryl Streep, James Woods, Michael Moriarty.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? That's exactly it. James, it's full of fucking people.
It's been a while since I've seen it. I think I saw it on TV, but that one, if I remember correctly, was intense.
Dude, if you want the definitive World War II movie, that's basically you have to have that one.
Well, plus the Bigfoot.
That one's great too. The Man Who Killed Hitler and then Bigfoot, highly recommended.
Didn't that have Sam Elliott?
Yeah.
In terms of like actual ones, though, the Holocaust and then like Saving Private Ryan, maybe the Big Red One, and
I don't know.
others.
My top ones have always, Schindler's List and Grave of the Fireflies.
Schindler's List's right there, and Grave of the Fireflies in terms of.
And I know, even though it's really hard to promote anything, especially anything recent, by Roman Polanski, but I freaking love The Pianist. That was such a good film. And
The Pianist was a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, there are some good ones out there, and Downfall is high on the list, and there's a couple of others that are maybe not
Jacob
as
the Liar.
What's that?
Jacob the Liar.
I never saw that. I need to see that. The Robin Williams, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
I've got that somewhere, but I haven't seen it yet myself.
Yeah. There's so many to see, so many movies, so little time.
I mean, shoot, I just finally watched Iris for the first time, which was
that was a load of fun, wasn't it?
freaking Oscar winner. So
hell of a film. It should have been. Well, Didn't it win for
Yeah, one for some
supporting actor? Didn't
Yeah.
it? It was Jim
Judy
Broadbent one, right?
Judy
Yeah.
Dench always.
That is the movie that, in a perfect world, Mulholland Drive would have won Best Actress that year, but it wasn't even flipping nominated, and they nominated friggin' Moulin Rouge and Bridget Jones' Diary instead of Mulholland Drive.
Speaking of Academy Awards, didn't
Should have
you?
gone to Iris over Monsters Ball. It really should have.
I'm sorry.
Judi Dench was so awesome in that film. Yeah. What's up?
Oh well, I talked over you for a second. I
Oh.
was just apologizing.
Oh, that's right.
Judy Dench is
Dave,
I've done this rant so many times.
Yeah.
So many times.
speaking of Academy Awards, didn't you just recently get the Samurai Trilogy, or am I?
I got
Samurai.
for my birthday, I got the Lone Wolf and Cub set. So,
Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
the Samurai Trilogy is within my collection somewhere. I picked
Dude, you gotta fuck with those immediately.
that.
The first one, Miyamati Musashi or whatever the fuck it's called, actually won like I think the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film that year. You guys haven't seen that? I would have thought you and Brandon would have been all over that. 'cause
I own it, but I have not gotten to see it yet.
you own
It's,
what? That movie or the trilogy?
I own the entire trilogy.
Brandon.
What's the movie?
Samurai Trilogy.
What's wrong with you? What are you doing?
It's called. I have a backlog of probably
Yes.
several thousand
Brandon.
films
That's-
that I've got to
that's
get
Come on,
to.
Brandon.
You're
Come
kind
on.
of like me. You collect and then you watch it later, and then you get interested in like.
That's peak Toshiro Mifune for one thing. It's
Oh yeah,
like
It's
his
all-
definitive thing. A
Okay,
lot of
well-
people give like Akira Kurosawa the credit for bringing the best out of that dude, but honestly, fuck that. Like you watch the Samurai Trilogy, you know that it was just there. Yeah.
Oh shoot! I need to crack open my Zatoichi set.
I know there's so many. Like, even if you're just talking Criterion, like, okay, so I wanted to do that series where I did the Criterion, like I did the complete collection thing, but because of issues, I have a backlog of videos to release. But I still have not done my reviews for Sullivan's Travels and the Trilogia de Guillermo del Toro. And I have not fully watched The Face in the Crowd. But then next week's City Lights joins Modern Times, Limelight, The Great Dictator, Down by Law, Clouds of Sils Maria, Breakfast Club, Boyhood, Beauty and the Beast, Tiny Furniture, and Everything is Going Fine, Our
Jesus Christ.
Jellyfish Eyes, Certified Copy, Barcelona, A Taste of Honey, The Naked Island, Inside Llewyn Davis, Brazil, The Last Days of Disco, Still Walking, The Rules of the Game, Foreign Correspondent, Identification of a Woman, Gates of Hell, The Kid, 1984, Watership Down, Clue, The Gold Rush, Black Stallion, Matewan, On the Waterfront, Jackie Chan's Police Story 1 and 2, Dazed and Confused, 3 films by Roberto Bussolini, and that Godzilla set that should be arriving any day now. That's the
Jesus.
Criterion backlog that has never been watched. That's not counting the ones I want to rewatch to do the reviews for.
Well, let's put it
And
this way,
that's
Jack.
That's a tiny corner of the.
Let's put it this way, Jack. I'm only interested in the samurai movies and holding you in my pouch like a baby kangaroo.
I
So
will-
Actually, among the ones
hunt
that I
down
have,
my-
among the ones I have that I need to rewatch, that does include the Seven Samurai, Sanjuro, Yojimbo. So-
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I've got like 65 Criterion alone.
I know.
I need to watch, and that's not counting the Zatoichi or Godzilla set.
And
Yeah,
that-
but
And
that's such a cool set. Yeah.
That is such a cool set. But actually, both of
Mm.
those, the Zatoichi set's also freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But,
Is that huge like the Godzilla one?
it's not
built
huge.
differently.
It's a very small set, but it's a
Packed full
compact
of
box
shit.
set.
It's
Yeah.
a big fat box.
Yeah,
Dude, I can't take anything else like that Godzilla. I'm trying to save space as it is.
That Godzilla set is
I
close.
thought
It's-
that dude, Jake, I thought that was going to be the size of like a Blu-ray steelbook or something.
Dave showing us that Zatoichi set there. That is a
It
nice.
shows
Oh
up,
yeah,
it's like
the
this big
Zatoichi set
fucking-
is. Yeah, the Zatoichi set is not very big. It's bigger than your standard one, but it's not like.
so many
it's not-
movies though.
I was gonna say
Right.
if you were collecting them individually, you would be saving yourself a boatload of room because it's very compact in that regard.
Oh, that's
It's-
next thing, man. Like next big purchase is going to be that
Mhm.
one, but I'm going to do it when I know
Yeah.
that like it's not going to be
Right.
delayed by a
Oh, my
Yeah.
father has
Yeah.
the
protest or
entire.
anything.
My father has the entire like individual DVD release of Zatoichi.
Oh wow.
Oh, that would be something. Honestly, I'd like to just hang out with your dad and talk to him about it. I
He is
love
an
Zatoichi
interesting
that much.
Well,
Talk
oh
to
yeah,
him
my
about
father.
it. Take a look
My
at him.
father's my father
Dude.
is very eccentric on this.
My dad is a 78-year-old truck driver, Brandon. So I'm pretty sure I can handle it. It'd be good time.
Good times.
Yeah, it's the thing is with backlogs, but I think the whole topic of just getting some of these films when you see them, like if you look at them at all these stores going out, just out of business. It's really sad because physical
Yeah.
media itself is just being ignored. This whole concept that
Yeah.
the internet is forever and you just need to stream what you want and heck with that.
Mhm.
That really is destroying it. But these films like this
Yeah.
one are very much low print runs. They don't get a
Mhm.
huge pressing to begin with. So of course, and they don't get very many editions. That's why
Mhm.
you hope for like repeat releases for collectors.
Mhm.
I mean, looking at films myself, if I see something that looks really strange and fun, I get it. Like Evil Bong. I know that's gonna be in print for a while because it's full moon. But other films like Die You Zombie Bastards, that's a good one. That's
Yeah,
that's harder to
Brandon's
find.
an intense example that we could all learn to follow, I think.
Dave is probably even better than me when it comes to that because he gets a lot of the rare,
Mhm.
especially the rare horror films. I mean, he had copies of these like laying around.
See, I'm not, man. I'm still stubbornly stuck in the I should be able to find this in person thing. So I'm sure you've seen that reflected in my pickup videos. And
See,
Well, you were talking earlier about the fine gentleman involved in Zombie Orpheus, so you
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
pick up these things when you can.
I mean,
Some
look
good-
at Dark Maze.
Yeah.
that's
Dark
beautiful.
Maze Studios that did
I love you.
the. What was that one? Press Start. I
Wanna
mean,
shine
Press
your
Start
head
and Press
and
Start
ride
2.
you like a
Press
kangaroo.
Press Start was awesome. I do need to get the second one. Been dragging
And,
my feet on that.
And they are out of print because that studio is going out of business. So again,
Mm.
it is it's getting harder to see some of these.
Yep.
And to me, I can't imagine
My-
not having Press Start in my collection.
my favorite of the series is that Hand of Fate one that you had in your hand so far.
Oh, if you
Yeah.
like card collecting, yeah, those are collectible card games. That's like right there
Oh.
for you.
Right. They did the Turkey, what was it? The Turkish Star Wars. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah,
Turkish film.
I like Rampage, Turkish.
Yes.
Well, I've got 3 Dev Adam, which has supposedly got Spider-Man and what do you call it, the Mexican wrestler that they always seem to have in all the Mexican wrestling movies.
Well, shoot, even films
I would
like
hope so.
Wrestle Massacre, which you yourself, Dave,
Love
have
it.
Produced. You know, that's the
Are you
thing. You get
serious?
them while they
I
are.
still need to pick up the Wild Eye Extreme version of
You
that.
produced on Wrestle Massacre?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that one.
You see right there, and that's a film that,
Like without even knowing you guys.
like I say, without a doubt, in a few years, that film will be almost non-existent.
Well, yeah,
And
I
that's
agree.
the thing. You get them. I mean, this what was that thing? House Shark. I've gotten, of course, you get to know some of the filmmakers, like House Shark. I've really enjoyed chatting with some of the filmmakers of that. I've gotten to enjoy Night of Something Strange, which enjoy is kind of. I
That's
don't know if that's the word for that
one
film,
of
but
my top favorite indie films. If I did a video,
uh,
that one and Bunny the Killer Thing would definitely be up there.
but
Yeah,
I've
this
but
be
I've
like
developed
your
a good
video
rapport with that
violence and
director, so that's
darkness.
good.
Well,
Yeah.
Darkness. Now that I've
Hmm.
seen it, I'll probably be going on about Darkness tonight. But I need to watch Video Violence too before I go on about those.
Oh,
So
video
Oh, I
violence. I'm
wasn't
going to be
trying to
getting that
bait.
on
I was just
physical.
saying. Yeah.
I mean, though I admit that I wasn't as in love with darkness as you are, but you also did introduce me to video violence, which I have fallen for
Right.
as a film. So you see, 1 out of 2 ain't bad, as I say, but I
I love
understand
it.
the
Yeah.
importance of it.
It's absolutely that's what I do it for. Yeah.
So so I will probably be getting the Australian versions because they're still legit print runs. They're just
See, I think if
yeah.
you had, dude, I just wish I could give you guys all that same release that me and Dave have of this. Because it would be one of those things, I think, where you would fall in love with it just based on all the stuff around it. Not
For me, when
really.
I first started getting into independent films, I wasn't entirely for violence myself either. I grew up Christian and whatnot, but the more bad films, it's like my mom and dad, they tried to instill me to behave when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
we filthied you up, Dave.
Oh, behave.
But
Uh,
what all
Yeah.
I guess I could say I enjoy watching people die in many different ways. It's
Well,
it's comical at least when it is done on a
well,
lower
it's
budget scale.
fictional, though. At the same time, I mean, of course, I love watching people
I mean,
get
in
splattered
real
all
life,
over the place when it's fictional.
I would not participate in a real life purge, but I would probably be one of those motherfuckers that would be like finding some basement to lock myself in when that shit happens. But I will. I mean, you know, to each their own. I mean, I enjoy a little. In my movies, I love nudity. I love them to be corny as shit. And I think some of those movies out there carry some of the things that I like. It's my bread and butter.
I mean, look at the stuff that we've been doing. I mean, we did a talk on Schusterman Levine a couple of weeks ago,
Mhm.
and even if we reach 1 or 2 people who discover Anhedenia Studios and buy a couple of those DVDs off of Amazon, or go to his site and watch a couple of them on stream, that to me is an awesome thing, because the more people who are excited about these, the more likely you'll get to see some films like Schusterman Levine in a wider release.
Exactly. You know, your reaction alone to video violence has been worth this entire
Yeah,
submission.
I mean, even with Darkness, even though I've said I didn't really care for it as much, I still respect the fact of what it was, and the amazing work that they did with such little effort.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
And you know,
yeah.
that's the one part where my opinion, like, I think it doesn't even differ with you. I just think that knowing you and Jake and your guys is pretty straightforward. I don't know how you say it.
I learned a long
you guys
time
actually
ago.
look at movies clear-headed. Okay, I can't say that I have the same qualifications as you did, but I think that if you guys looked at it as something where like the feature-length documentary that Dave knows exactly what I'm talking about was paired with the movie, I think that you guys would like Darkness a lot more.
Jake taught me a long time ago that just because I don't like a movie doesn't necessarily mean that I can't respect it.
Yeah, you won't love the movie just for being what it is, which is
It's
I enjoyed the movie for its meltdown at the end. I mean,
I see what you do the opposite of me.
I don't think I've seen anything quite like it, except for maybe in there is a short film that I know that's from Belgium that kind of does a similar meltdown in a sense, but but that's a recent short film. So
we'll go into that, I'm sure, on our viewing of the uncut, like unaltered version of this, Dave, because we definitely need to do that. I think.
Oh, definitely. I would like to do.
Well, I just want to thank Brandon and Jake for even coming out for this too. Definitely your normal ball of wax, Jake, and I feel very proud and grateful that you came out.
Well, let me go ahead and start us off on our outros at this point, I guess. Which, of course, I'm Septum Sen of Septum Sen versus the World. We are a channel that prizes physical media and all of those things that come therewith. I've got lots of physical media myself, including comics, manga, DVDs, and the occasional novel here and there. Whereas, of course, Jake has a lot of novels on top of all of that stuff. So we enjoy doing various releases. We try and fill you in on that release news and give you a week advance notice so you can save up your coffers so that you can buy that new DVD release. And on top of that, we show you various pickups, but we give you even bigger value for your for your time, not money. Where we do little discussions on Mondays with our vlogcast, which I'm hoping to continue throughout the quarantine until Jake and I can start getting together to film those extra videos like we did.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I do a couple of extras, such as the tours through my collection, and I'm going to be doing a video game update at the end of the week, which will be some additions from the Switch collection and some original PlayStation games. So if you like that sort of thing, that'll be something fun. And don't forget the Anhedenia Films tribute that I do, which is the Anhedenia Project, that will probably be wrapping up in June. But he does have a new animated film coming out this week. So if you want to catch the newest release, you should check into the Vimeo account for Anhedenia Films and sign up. Only $2 will get you all of his films plus the newest film release that's coming out this week. So you can be on top of it just like I am. Finally, I do work with Inside Movies Galore, and I do help with the scheduling. Unfortunately, Dane could not be with us this time around, but next week will be his week. So I will assume that he'll be with us as we cover our pre-show, which I have on pre-order from Germany, unfortunately. So likelihood is that it will not get here in time, but that will be the classic film The Elephant Man. And the main event will be the Charlie Chaplin film, which I do have, and I actually have seen. So I'll be watching as a rewatch, which is called City Lights. So I guess almost the antithesis of what we're doing today. But still, both of them equally important in their own ways.
Yeah, I
So-
hope you guys at least enjoyed this, man.
So
Maybe.
that's again, I think that's awesome because it reflects each person. That's the idea of Meet the Cast is what is it that reflects who you are. So we will be definitely enjoying that next time. So I will push this over to the next person who wants to tell people about themselves.
Well, why don't I go, I guess, since I am also on Septum Sin versus World. I am Kotobuki Jake. And, well, like you said, we've been doing a lot of videos lately. I'm still trying to get caught up. I'm going through the backlog and trying to get caught up to where we are now. And it's fun. It's good times. But, I am also a movie collector, fan, media collector generally. I enjoy, like you said, novels and music and what have you, as well as movies, and quite the varied collection overall. I do also have my own YouTube channel, Kotobuki Jake, which is dedicated to nature and the natural world. I have challenged, if you will, a friend, my brother, rather, one of my brothers, is a very talented musician. I've asked him to see if he could come up with a theme for my channel, and hopefully I will be able to start putting something a little more interesting on there than I was able to do in the past, what with my fancy new computer and editing software and all that stuff. So it's not going to happen right away, but it's in the works.
So you just
something to look forward to.
Nature fans.
What's that?
No nature. Is that what we're getting at?
No. That's going to be nature stuff. I have a cool snake video actually. That needs
Damn
to
it,
go.
Jake, I've been waiting for that since I've known you.
What's that?
I said, God damn it, Jake, I've been waiting for that since I know you.
He's
So it's
got to
coming.
just go around like film your cat, and film yourself getting bitten by the cat, and that way you can start like the Coyote Peterson route. And
I tell you, if I can find an actual wildcat, specifically in this area, a bobcat.
You get
if I can actually get a video, if I get bitten by a bobcat, it'll be worth it just to say that I found a bobcat.
Jake, don't go get bit by a bobcat.
You got to have a good eye for that stuff.
I know they are ghosts,
as much
man.
as I would laugh if
Ghosts.
that happened, I would not want you to do that.
I get bitten by my house cat all the time, though.
I am more likely to get a video of my getting bitten by a snake. Although, amazingly, this rat snake that the video is of, he never opened his mouth once. He was really chill. But at any rate, and I did also, as I alluded to earlier, I have a series of videos for Brandon's channel of Criterion reviews. I hope to get back into that. But
you got the editing software.
I have the editing software. I have a great camera to do it with. It's just finding the time. Believe it or not, I don't have free time during all this that's going on. So it's
neither do I. I'm in the office like 60 hours a week these days.
I know. But we can't complain too much.
Oh no. It's good to be working.
Yes.
Easy, man. Relatively. Some days I have like 300 packages that I have to deliver, which is
wow.
I mean, that's.
I wish you were my mailman.
Oh yeah.
I wish I was too, because I'm careful. My shit. I don't. Damn it.
Yeah. So you would not be the one who took my video and used it as a doorstop for 3 weeks.
No. But I'm a small town, so maybe that makes sense. More
maybe.
You know, like I have to fucking live with these people, so I can't exactly be fucking up their packages.
Right. They know where you live.
That's a YouTube channel. Post and who screws up people's packages. That would be that wouldn't be very
See,
long lived because the job.
I
would be less
can't
for
I can't help but thinking of that episode of Cheers where they made a video of everyone to send to Woody's folks so he wouldn't have to go home. And they had a video of Cliff delivering the packages. And while he's talking to the camera, everyone behind him was switching their packages with each other. It was good times.
I know, man. I'm a small town mailman, so I deal with mostly like dogs.
Oh yeah,
It's a fun,
Oh, I mean,
good
yeah.
times.
Drunken Master Studios, one of the best channels that one can see on the internet. When I talk about small channels, that is one of the ones that I say is just awesome. One of the backbones of YouTube.
Thanks, man.
Good times.
And
Boys, I gotta go over here and take care of my kids, so I'm gonna bounce out.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, try to cast your vote real quick before you leave if you can. That way I'll have the topic. Your votes. 2 votes.
Where do I cast that in the chat?
Yep, in the chat.
Yep, in the chat.
alrighty. And my name is David Streggy. I am one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore, and I guess I would have to say Seth from Sim is the second founding father, besides maybe Dane, Kyle in the group. So let's just put it out there that that we have been podcasting for the last 3 years now, and we've had some fun here. So hopefully you enjoyed our discussion here. I also moonlight on a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where I put out videos of things I picked up and various video reviews of various films of all years. So definitely check some of those out. I do plan on getting some kind of an order around here so that I can just plug the shit out of my thoughts on my channel. It's just a matter of sitting down and watching them. So thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. I want to put out there, even though Mo, you are almost gone. Thank you for bringing these films to our attention. So
No problem.
thank you. So in any case, let us know down in the comments what you think of this film, and just give it a one-time watch. So I think now you can turn on your lights, everyone. So
Yeah, get out there and make your own movie too. That's basically it.
All right.
Do it.